everyone. I'm going to show you guys how to use the debugging tools provided by Android and Eclipse and walk you through this application that I've made. We'll go over this application on class for lecture 18, so hopefully you'll be familiar with it. But if not, essentially it's a very simple app. It has 4 buttons, each one with a color, and when you click that color or button, it's going to change the color of this view down here. So pretty simple. Let's take a look at the layout first, get a better idea of what we're looking at. We have a linear layout, which is a view group. That means it can have children. And then we have 4 buttons, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we have just a blank, or sorry, not a blank view, we just have a simple view. And we're using some magic to make it suck up the available space that's left over by the linear layout with this layout weight right here. We'll talk about that in class. And then we're giving it a background color. And so the idea is when you click a button, we're going to use the associated color with that button and set it on this view, and it will change to that color. So great. Let's run this application, and we're going to run into some issues, and I'll show you how I would go about debugging it, and hopefully we'll learn how to do it. So open up the emulator. As you can see, I previously tried to run it and it crashed, but let's try running it again. So click on my application, and it looks like it's getting ready to load, but then bam, we're met with this message right here. Unfortunately, lecture 18 Rayleigh has stopped. So we didn't get anywhere really in our application, and it already crashed. So it's hard to know where to start looking. And so the very first thing that I like to do is pull open the terminal and put in the command adb logcat. Logcat's also built into DDMS, so we'll use that for the moment. And as you can see here, there's some red text, and whenever you see red text, that means an error has occurred. You can tell over here because the tag or label for this message was E, which is bad. So look for the red, and then what you want to do is scroll up until you figure out, scroll up to the top of it for starters, and then we can see here that we have a fatal exception. And in Android, whenever something goes bad, there's a fatal exception thrown. And if we, starting from the top, work our way down, we can see down here that binary XML file line number 26. You must apply a layout width attribute. So it looks like for one of my layouts, I did not specify layout width. And as you can see here, it was very nice, and it gave me a line number. So how do I know which line number is associated with this? Well, let's go to our activity, which inflates the view that we're using, and find out. So we come in here and we see set content view r.layout.activity main. So that means we are inflating the file activity main in our layout folder. So we come here, double click on it, and then we look at line 26. And what is it saying? Ah, I made a mistake here. One second. This is what it's supposed to look like. So sorry. Line 26. It says there's an error, and so if we look on line 26, we see it's a part of this button, and we can see here, yes, we definitely forgot to add layout width. So let's go and do that, and we're going to wrap content, save it, and we made sure it's saved. We're going to right click on our project, run that bad boy again, and wait patiently for the emulator to start back up. Something I like to use instead of having to use Eclipse this logcat is if you have a terminal, you can also issue the command adb logcat. If you're on Windows, I suggest you getting something like Cygwin. It's very helpful. And so let me show you what I would do. Just simply click on Cygwin. It is going to eventually load up. And here, all I'm going to do is type adb logcat. And this is going to show every single message that is displayed by logcat. Something that's really neat about logcat is you can use a pipe, which is specific to Unix, Linux platforms, and what that will do is direct the output of adb logcat into another command, and then I'm going to use grep. And grep is essentially something that takes regular expressions, strings, and will search for those strings in what the input string comes. So essentially we're going to feed logcat into grep, and anytime it finds the word fatal, it's going to print it out. So if I type enter now, we can see we got 3 error messages. Something that's a little bit better for debugging Android problems is if you type Android runtime, you'll get a few more messages. And so we no longer have to wade through everything. We can specifically pipe and grep for the specific things we're interested in. So let me click on our application again. And it looks like we've crashed again, so we're going to scroll down. You must apply a layout height attribute. Ah, yes. Something I mentioned in lecture from our Welcome to Android is that you have to always specify layout width and layout height. So now let's specify height, and we're going to say wrap content. And now let's rerun this and see what happens. Clear that message. But, we have another problem here. So, whichever way you prefer, you can use the terminal or Eclipse. For finding it, and let's see what happened here. So now we have something different. We have a null pointer exception. And if we look, it will give us a line number, perform launch activity, yada 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 yada, work our way down. Ah, here, caused by java.lang null pointer exception, and then it's saying, it's very nice, it gives us a line number and the Java file. So all we have to do is open up our main activity.java and look at line 26. So come over here, click on it, and we're going to find line 26, and it's saying that the view in blue is null. But that's interesting because it looks like I have a valid ID for it. So let's step into the code and see what's happening by setting a breakpoint. So all you have to do is come to the line number that you're interested in and just move over into this grayish column and double click. It'll show this circle. If you don't like double clicking, you can also right click and say toggle breakpoint, etc. And so now we have a breakpoint set. You can either click on this bug right here. The very first time though, you'll probably have to click right click on the project and then left click debug as, and then Android application. And now what's going to happen is when the program loads up and begins executing, it's going to stop or pause on the line right here where we have a breakpoint. And when we do that, as you can see right here, this has changed. It was a circle and it had a little bit of a line, kind of looked like a sideways magnifying glass, if you will. And when it changes from a circle to that magnifying glass, that's when you know it's active and your application is running, and you will break on that breakpoint when you get there. once you finally have got to that point and your application has stopped, you'll see an arrow next to the dot and the line will be green. Something that is good to note is you come up here to this bar right here, and if you hit that, it's going to resume the execution of your program. This will disconnect from the debugger, and then the important icons right here, step into, that's going to step in the method in question. So if I were to click this, it would try to step into the find view by ID. Next we have step over, which means it's just going to go to the next line, and then we have step return. And what that will do is, if you notice up here, here's our stack trace, and we're currently on this line right here, main activity.onCreate. If I were to hit step return, it would pop that off the stack and return me up to this right here. And so if you notice, I double clicked on this line right here, and now I have something that says source not found, and it just gives me kind of a little blurb about this class but not the real code. And that's because what we've done is we've gone into the activity code, so activity.java, and that's not code we have. So since we don't have that code, it can't display what's there, and so you'll see this page a lot when you step into classes that you don't actually have the source for. If you want, in the future I can show you how to actually get the source so you can look through all the Android platform code and you can debug through it, but for right now we're going to ignore that step right now. And let's just go back to our current line of execution. And what we're going to do is, since we can't step into it and really see anything that's going on because we don't have the platform code, we're just going to step over it. So we're going to click that. If you notice, you can also just press F6, and now that we've stepped over it, we can hover over this variable to see what its value is. And so as you can see here, these have not been initialized because they haven't been set up yet. And now we're going to check in blue, and interestingly enough, it's null as well. However, we already went to try and find the view, so let's read the documentation for find view ID. Let's see what happens. And it says it finds a view that was identified by the ID attribute from the XML that was processed in onCreate. If the view is found, it will return that view, or it's going to return null otherwise. So that means this ID, although it's valid, it exists somewhere in our ID resources, it's not found in our current layout. So let's go back and confirm that. So we go back to our layout, and we're trying to load this view right here, blue. And so if we look, we have an ID of blue right here. So what do we have in our Java file? What are we trying to do? Oh, I see the problem. We're trying to access an ID of pink. And if you'll look, come in here to this layout, let's do a search for pink. Pink is nowhere found in this file, so I must have defined pink elsewhere, and I made a mistake. So what we need to do is correct this code to find the view whose ID is equal to blue. So we've made that change. Let's stop our debugger. Now we're going to save the file, and then since now we've already debugged this application once, we can just click this bug up here, and we will begin the debugging process once again. And I still have that breakpoint here because I want to verify that we've successfully found that view that we're interested in. So we're going to stop right here, and I'm just going to hit F6 to step over. And now let's look at blue, and we'll see. Alright, it successfully found a button. And so what's great is just by hovering over it, we can see all of the member variables that this button has. You can also, over here, you'll have a this variable, and this points to the object that you're currently running in. So in this case, it's the main activity. And as you can see here, we also can find the mBlue variable, because mBlue is a member variable of this activity. We can expand it just like when we hovered over it and see what's inside of it. And yes, here you can see blue is the text that this button has, and if we look at the emulator, we can verify that as soon as we load it. So now we're going to continue to step over, and we're just going to continue playing the application. So as you can see now, we've successfully loaded everything. And of course, that button does have blue for its text. So next, what I want to do is this application is supposed to be so when you click on one of these buttons, it changes the color of this view to match what the button says. So let's try that out. We're going to click this blue button, see it change to blue. Let me disable that breakpoint. When you want to get rid of a breakpoint, all you have to do is double click on it again and it will remove it. Something else that's interesting, you can come over here to your breakpoints tab and you can either skip all of them, so it's not going to stop at any of them. If you'd like, you can also delete them by clicking on them, hitting the delete button. You can also click this X here to remove the selected one, or you can remove all breakpoints with the 2X symbol. So let me play over that, and as you can see here, for some reason my logic is incorrect. I'm clicking on these buttons and nothing's happening. So we can assume something's wrong with my click listener. And in Android, all you need to do to set a click listener is find the view that you want to have a click listener for and say .set on click listener and pass in the object that will do the listening for you. And in this case, I've declared my activity to implement an on-click listener method. So if I come down here, this is where I'm actually defining it. So let's take a look in here and see what's going on. Here we get the click event and a view is passed in, and we're checking if that view was equal to a particular button. So if it was blue, then we're going to set the background color of that view with color blue, with color green, with color red, with color black. So if you click the black, it's going to load black. So for some reason something's wrong. So let's figure out what the deal is. And since we haven't changed any code, there is a way to start debugging while your application is running. So all you need to do is double click, and as you can see here, it's disabled because it has that slash through it. So let me go ahead and unclick skip all breakpoints. And as I was mentioning earlier, when it's active, you'll see this little line right here next to the dot. I don't really know what you want to call that symbol, magnifying glass, whatever. But that means it's going to be active and run. And so as you can see here, when I go to the DDMS perspective and I look at my process, I have a little green bug right here, and that means it is being debugged right now. While your application is running, if you decide you want to add a breakpoint and you're not debugging currently, you can select your process and then click that bug right there and it will add it. As you can see here, since I'm already in the process of debugging it, it won't let me do that. So let's come back to our debug perspective and click on a button to figure out what's going on. So let's click on red. And as you can see here, our program is stopped. So let's step over it. We click the red button, so I expect us to step into this if statement right here. So let's see if that's true. Okay, so I have the view that I'm interested in, so that's right. And now I'm trying to set the background color. And let's see here. I'm using ID red. Okay, I want the red color. And then let's see if I can step into any of this. No, I don't have any of this code, so it's not letting me see what value I'm getting. So since I don't have my code set up so I can step inside the Android classes, let's make it a little bit easier, and instead of passing in what's returned by this method getColor, let's actually store it in a variable so we can see the result. color, and then r.id.blue. So I want the blue color. Save it, and then let's run this application, or let's debug it again so we can see what's going on. Alternatively, if you didn't want to debug it, some debugging's obviously slower, you could add a log message and you could print out what that color is. So something you could do is, remember D just stands for a debugging message. Here you insert your tag so you can filter through it, and then we can just say color fetched equals, and then +, blue. And so that's going to print out whatever that integer has in it. We have a warning message, or error message, and it's saying log cannot be resolved, so that just means I need to import it into this class. And there, we're good to go. So, did all that, and we're still waiting for the thing to load. So, since I've modified the code, and now I'm running it from a previous save, the line numbers aren't going to match up, but that's okay. We know what we changed, so things will be okay. So let's get rid of that breakpoint. We solved that problem. And come back to the emulator, and we're going to click on blue, because that's where we added our log to get the color. So let's step over it. See what's going to happen. Well, step over, step over, step over. Uh-oh, went too far. So we gotta try that one more time. We went and fetched the color from the resources, but it's returning 0, which isn't what I would expect. So let's read about this. The method getColor returns a color integer associated with a particular resource ID. This integer encodes the package type and resource identity. The value 0 is an invalid identifier. Interesting. Returns a single value color. So for some reason it found the resource because it didn't throw this resource not found, but it's not giving me what I'm interested in. So that's strange. Let's see where I define this color. So I defined a special place in my project, a color folder, or sorry, a colors XML file. And if I click on it, and I see here I've defined it, that's good, as a color. So I should be able to look at my resources and find the color variable. So let's go back to my code and see, oh, see, there's a problem right here. I have multiple things with an identifier of blue. I have the ID for the view, but I also have a color with the ID equal to blue. So if you see there, I've made a mistake once again. Instead of ID, all of these should be color. So let's save that bad boy. Stop debugging, and then run this application one more time, and hopefully when we click on those buttons, things will look right. We'll actually display the color of the button that we pressed. So waiting for Android to chug along. Alright, there we go. Application's loaded. We don't have any errors. Click, yes. Now everything's beautiful, and change the color. So that's kind of a quick walkthrough of how to use Eclipse, logcat, and debugger to figure out problems with your application. as a quick recap for debugging your Android applications, when you get a crash, the first thing you want to do is look in DDMS for the logcat section, look for what's red, and scroll to the top of that message. You'll see some kind of exception, fatal, null pointer exception, etc., etc. And then the next thing you want to do is start from the top of that message and scroll down until you see a specific line number. Usually it'll say caused by, and that's where you know something's wrong. In the case of XML, it'll just say binary XML file and give you a line number. In the case of Java code, it will give you a line number and a file number. So here we have all our pointer exception from earlier. It gave us the line number 26 and the file name. Those are the first places you want to start when you receive crashes. Logcat. You can either use, I mentioned, this tool or from the terminal. Next, once you've narrowed down what your problem is, if it's not obvious, then you want to set a breakpoint and figure out what values are returning from methods, if variables are null, etc. Determine if you're getting the right input and output. That's what you want to do. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks a lot.